Are you ready to go?
We're live.
Ready? Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Before we do anything else, we will have the mayor swear in the new planning and zoning member.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I state
Be first duly sworn
Be first duly sworn
on my oath.
on my oath,
State that I possess
state that I possess
all of the qualifications
all the qualifications
prescribed by law
prescribed by law
for the position of
for the position of
Planning and Zoning Commission,
Planning and Zoning Commission,
member of
member of
the City of Pacific,
City of Pacific,
State of Missouri,
State of Missouri,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the State of Missouri,
and the State of Missouri,
the provisions of all laws
provisions of all laws
of this state
of this state
affecting cities of the fourth class,
affecting cities of the fourth class,
and the ordinances of the City of Pacific, State of Missouri,
and the ordinances of the City of Pacific, State of Missouri,
and will faithfully demean myself
and will faithfully demean myself
as Planning and Zoning Commissioner,
as Planning and Zoning Commissioner,
member of the City of Pacific.
member of the City of Pacific.
Boy, that seemed like an awful lot.
Much easier than the military. They send you out there.
Yeah, there you go.
Took his bag, didn't you?
I forgot to. I almost said against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That's how I
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate that. And welcome to the board, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Bruns.
Here.
Commissioner Flannery.
Here.
Commissioner Culling.
Here.
Commissioner Miles.
Here.
Commissioner Bates.
Here.
Commissioner Madrigal.
Here.
Commissioner Bricado.
Here.
Alderman Eversmeyer.
Here.
Commissioner Graham.
Commissioner Graham is out on sick leave. Approval of the minutes from the March 22nd, 2022 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Eversmeyer,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Miles. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes approved. P and Z public hearing, P and Z 2022-3, was this posted?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Public hearing for 319 West St. Louis Street, conditional use permit, Jason Clark applicant. Applicant is proposing to convert the first floor of the existing residence into a small wine tasting and meeting space with outdoor seating. The property is currently zoned C1 Downtown Commercial District, and such uses are not specifically permitted in the zoning district. Jason Clark was the applicant. Could we have the report on this, please?
Yes, Madam Chair. So the other potential use was the short-term vacation rental of the upstairs facility. It is a permitted use under the C1 zoning. So we'll focus more on the wine house courtyard. So this was something that was noted as this is the second parcel east of the northwest corner of St. Louis Street and 4th Street. Its property is under renovation presently, and I had the chance to go and meet with the owner, the new owner, and he showed me just a basic understanding of what the property has to offer, what his intentions are, and it has excellent visibility from St. Louis Street, as you all know, 4th Street as well. For a commercial use of this property would be ideal. However, there's some hurdles to jump. So if you look on the second page, it shows you that everything is C1 around it, with the exception of to the west, which is R1 Single Family District. All of this pretty much has mixed commercial and residential uses. The R1A even has a lot of residential, but it also has a lot of churches, historically has been there. The proposed land use includes renovation and repurposing of this historic community residence that used to be owned by the Hirth family, and that was the owner also of the Royal Theater. And which I remember as a young man, Mr. Hirth and his family, and the family growing up there, I always thought, what a cool place. I would love to be able to go in there someday. Well, finally, 2 weeks ago, I had the chance. So it was once a beautifully maintained home. It fell into disrepair and now is being brought back to life. Without the proposed willingness of investors like Mr. Clark, this property would have definitely fallen into a blight consideration. It had a lot of challenges with it, as Jason shared with me and through photos. When he went in, it was pretty much in a hoarder's condition. So I'm very grateful for investors coming to the city of Pacific and taking care of places like this. Because of efforts to revitalize Pacific's downtown district, it's in the best interest of the community welfare that this property is renovated and repurposed for commercial use. This proposed use would provide a new convenient option for our local community and visitors to choose from when planning an event, a potential place for visitors to stay, or when looking for a relaxing environment in which to responsibly sample and enjoy an adult beverage. Once completed, this property would also contribute to the city's sales tax and possibly tourism tax, which collects 5% for overnight lodging stays. I'd like to share with you real quick from a article I found with the MissouriPartnership.com, who generates a lot of economic development for the state of Missouri. It says, today, Missouri is home to more than 130 wineries, 425 grape growers, and has more than 1,700 acres yielding 3 to 4 tons of grapes per year. The wine industry in Missouri has $3.2 billion in economic impact annually, with more than 28,000 jobs supported, resulting in $1 billion in wages for Missourians. Furthermore, Missouri welcomes 875,000 wine-related tourists each year, resulting in 1.16 million gallons of Missouri wine sold annually. We don't have any in the city of Pacific today, as far as a winery, a wine tasting facility, a place that you can go and just relax and enjoy. My wife and I had the chance to go for Mother's Day to Triple Three Vineyard,
Washington.
out just past Washington, a little west. It was Mother's Day, but it was their record day that they've ever had out there. It was packed, and just what a great environment. We wouldn't even be close to coming to that kind of a crowd with this facility, but we would scratch the surface. We'd get a start. So I'm excited about the potential, if you can't tell. The Planning and Zoning Commission's comprehensive plan that was adopted in 2017 identifies growing our economy as a top priority. The public engagement process conducted during the development of this plan concluded that the promotion of adaptive reuse, restoration, development, and redevelopment of the city's existing commercial areas, including downtown, is among our community's highest recommendations. This includes the repurposing of historic structures, such as the Farmer Hearth Home, to help generate traffic and vitality to our downtown. Supporting entrepreneurial startups and promoting Pacific as a weekend getaway with the intent of increasing the frequency and duration of visits to the city, specifically to the downtown area and along Route 66, is also mentioned in the comprehensive plan as one of our strategies to increase tourism and economic vitality. In addition, the comprehensive plan lists economic development as the top critical issue. This application qualifies to represent 3 categories of need: entertainment, commercial services, and hospitality, that were identified as the greatest needs, among the greatest needs. This reviewer therefore finds that the application is consistent with the stated objectives found within the city's comprehensive plan. The applicant mentioned to the reviewer that short-term vacation rentals is a possible future use, and I want to again just stress that that is an accepted use under the C1 zoning. Will it provide, if applicable, on-street, off-street parking? That was something that I wanted to just caution everybody to take a strong look at. The applicant intends to utilize existing on-street parking for much of the business operation, although it is possible for some off-street parking spaces to be provided along the northern edge of the property that's accessed by that alleyway. The classifications the code calls for, 2 of them are closely related. One is retail stores. With 1,000 square feet of gross floor area would be a pretty close match to this one. 4 required parking spaces are mandated by code in that classification. If you go to a restaurant classification, which there's no desire to sell food right now, but it's another close close use. Nothing in the code calls for a winery or wine tasting, so you got to go as close as you can. So if you use a restaurant, 4 parking spaces are required, the same way. So for decades, I've observed that there's very light amount of parking on that side of the street. During the business days and weekends, it's relatively empty. So with that in mind, I believe there are ample parking spaces available as on-street parking. So I recommend that a minimum of 2 parking spaces would be required. You might consider 3, but that would be for employee parking and caterer to have a place accessed off that back alley. Also, ADA accessibility should also be accessed from the on-street parking spaces, which right now there's a little short retaining wall that would need to have a ramp for ADA accessibility. So will it provide erosion control? That's not really applicable here. If later on down the road he wanted to do some additional site construction or development, then he would need to consult engineering. But that's not an issue at this stage. Would it substantially increase traffic congestion and noise? Well, of course, now it's a vacant use. Before, I think it was a single person that lived there, so anything that you do is going to increase somewhat, but it's not going to be a significant enough increase to cause any kind of disturbance on St. Louis Street or 4th Street, in this reviewer's opinion. Future land use absolutely designates mixed-use zoning for the entire downtown area that permits a complementary mix of residential, commercial, and industrial in this single district. Discussions in the comprehensive plan regarding future land use suggest that the city would update and redevelop downtown Pacific. Discussions regarding the establishment of a historical district or a festival district are also, those discussions have recently taken place. So recommendation, after visiting the site with the applicant, seeing their presentation of what they intend to offer the community, it's evident that they intend to provide a unique wine tasting and wine sales retail facility with a charming atmosphere. Retail sales of Route 66 souvenir items and courtyard event space rental would also be available. The courtyard is proposing to add a relaxing, peaceful environment. Due to the site's high visibility along St. Louis Street, this reviewer has the opinion that permitting the applicant's suggested use would allow another thriving business to take root in our community. Staff recommends approval with the following conditions: that the applicant would provide off-street parking for employees and a catered delivery van, and restrictions on the hours of operation of outside musical performances should be set. Thank you.
Okay. Does the applicant have anything that they would like to add at this time?
I think Steve pretty much.
I mean, can you address some of the things that you're planning to do out?
State its name.
Oh, yeah, give your name.
My name is Jason Clark, and
Jason, your address for the record, please.
319 West St. Louis Street is the address of the.
Your residence?
Yeah,
My residence is 135 Rockwood Place
Okay.
Court in Eureka, Missouri.
All right.
And basically, Steve covered everything that we had gone over, but I feel that this is something that will absolutely be an asset to the community. My wife, her friends, my wife's a teacher, speech pathologist actually, but she works at a school, so she's off during the summer, and her and her friends, they enjoy going and having a glass of wine during the summer, and there's nowhere really around here to go. So they end up going to Augusta, or they go further down south to Antonia Winery, and so it's a pretty decent drive. So, and when you go to these places, there are a lot of people there. A lot of people enjoy just sitting in a nice atmosphere, having a cup of, or a glass of wine, and just relaxing. And I feel like the location in Pacific is a great location because we're pretty close to Labadee, there's Wildwood, a lot of places that would actually, I think, come into Pacific to check something like this out. And while they're here, maybe say, hey, okay, we had a couple glasses of wine, let's head down to Brown Jerry's and get some dinner. And then while they're there, they say, hey, there's this, what's a kaleidoscope? Let's go across the street to Kaleidoscope and check that out. I think it's going to draw more people into the city of Pacific, and I really think it's going to be an asset.
Now, are you thinking you're going to have like outdoor seating in the vacant space that's
Right, so
that's
now
there
there's
to the
actually,
east?
there's actually 3 lots there. It was initially 3 lots. We had to tear down one building because it was in
Right.
such a state of disrepair. And then we cleared out the lots and we saw it's a really nice flat area. And I have a company that's called TRC Outdoors that does large-scale outdoor areas. And they're going to be the ones who are going to be designing the outdoor area, which I plan on having a pretty large pavilion, so a covered area. And then there's going to be probably a fireplace there at one end. And then there's going to be a fire pit with a patio and just a lot of nice seating areas, just, scattered throughout the 2 additional lots that are next to me. And also I was thinking about possibly having an area in the back, as Steve had talked about the, the additional parking, possibly a spot where we could pull in a couple of food trucks. Because like he said, I'm not planning on serving any food, but I think it would be great if like maybe on a Saturday or Sunday, we give the opportunity to some of these local food trucks to park there and, sell some of their food would be great. And also if someone decides, hey, we'd like to have like a small, graduation party or, some sort of an event there, they'd be able to use local places such as Gray's or Brown Jerry's to cater in food. And so I think that it would also benefit some of the smaller businesses here because we could all kind of work together. And I think that that's what makes a community work, is businesses working together, businesses that, try and help each other out. So that's kind of where I am. And initially I had bought this property to restore it and sell it. And I've had this property for over a year now. People call us flippers. We don't flip houses, we restore them. This is a 1927 craftsman style house. Used to be absolutely beautiful. I've been in contact with Georgia Clark, her maiden name is Hearth.
The daughter.
Yes. And she sent me a lot of pictures from when she was younger, pictures from the 50s, what the house looked like when it was in good shape. We're trying to bring it back to that. And when it's done, it's going to be beautiful. It'll be a magnificent house. And the outside, if you guys allow me to do this, I'm going to spend just as much money on the outside as I have on the inside of the house. And I think it's going to be an asset to the community.
Okay, so now is this wine tasting, are you going to have seating on the first floor of this house?
There will be a couple of spots in the living room where we will have some tables. I'll also have it set up to where we're going to sell merchandise. Route 66 merchandise typically is kind of what I'm going for. I love the idea of Route 66. My wife kind of decided on Winehouse 66 is what she likes. I thought Route 66 Winehouse, but she said that she liked Winehouse 66 better, and she's probably smarter than I am when it comes to stuff like that. So, and she has some great ideas about, we had talked about selling like, she likes to go look at like knick-knack type stuff when she's in a place like that. They have little gifts that you can buy, wine glasses, T-shirts, maybe a cool cup or something. But she also likes to look at, some of these places will have earrings, little jewelry spots. And I know that there's some local people who actually make some of that jewelry who it would be great to get some local people or artisans in there showing off some of their stuff and being able to sell it.
Right.
So, again, I think it's a great asset to the community to bring a bunch of different businesses kind of together and, just draw people in.
Right, no, I was just trying to get a handle for all of us on the board as to what we're planning for outside, so we kind of have a little bit of an idea of what was going on and
Right.
things like this.
The main structure is going to be the pavilion, which I don't know if it's going to be probably, I was thinking like 30 feet, maybe 30 by 40 possibly, but I'm leaving that up to the designers, honestly. I'm going to tell them what I want, but as far as sizes, that's their area of expertise. So, and once I obviously get that, I'll have to bring it to you guys and get the proper approvals, but I'm just basically throwing out ideas for the designer and saying, this is what I would like to see. One of the other things that I think I will have to do as far as ADA is add bathrooms that are accessible from the ground level. So with that being said, we would build a small structure with a men's room and a ladies' room that are ADA accessible. And then in front of that, probably have a small serving area where if people wanted to purchase bottles of wine, they would be able to do it from there as opposed to going back inside.
And then you're probably going to have some kind of a ramp from the street parking for them to get up to that level?
Or from the back, you could access it.
Okay.
We could set it up to where there's handicap parking in the back, to where it would be easily accessible and there would be no steps.
Steve, is that, you were saying there was something in here about off-street parking or on-street parking for ADA accessibility.
I would still recommend that there would be a ramp.
I kind of think that we probably need to take a look at that, at least
Okay.
take a look at it.
And we could do that because I also do want to change up, because right now there is a probably 2.5-foot wall out there that really, it should be looked at as far as, I think the city owns it, right? Is that the city's? I mean, I don't know if,
We built it when we built that street.
okay.
We'll have to look into it.
Okay, but that would be something that I would want to set it up to where people could walk directly into that area without having to walk all the way to the house steps. So that area would have to be addressed, and while we're doing it, we could just add a ramp easy enough to make it accessible.
Okay. Now, I'm going to open it up to board members that have questions for you
Oh, man, this is
at
not,
this time.
I have a question.
Mr. Kelly?
okay.
Just to, one, do you know about how many parking spaces you can get on the alley side? And then the second part of that would be, how many people would you project, if you were busy, would be under that pavilion?
On the back side, well, I know on the front side of the property, there are 14 spaces that the city has. So there's 14 in the front, and I would think that I would be able to get 4 easily back there. 4 spaces shouldn't be an issue at all. And I would hope that we'd be able to maintain about 20 people, at any given time under the pavilion. Which would be, if there's a couple people per car, that would be maybe 10 cars.
Okay. Mr. Bates?
Madam Chair, some time back, they were looking at having some possible outdoor music events at Little Island, that area in the back. And we set up some hours of operation then. What I'd like to do is look at what that was. I don't remember what they were exactly.
Well, also there's specific hours for the Royal Theater too.
Yeah,
It's not the
yeah.
Royal
Well,
Theater
and-
anymore, but.
And what I'd like to see is consistency. So when someone such as yourself comes in, we say, hey, we did this here, we're gonna do
Right,
this here.
right.
And I don't know what those are right off the top of my head. I'd like to see if we couldn't look that up and provide that and make that part of the conditional use permit motion when it gets there. The other thing I would say is that this commission, many years before we even adopted the comprehensive plan that's currently in effect, and we did that in 2017, identified this area for exactly these kind of uses. We wanted to make it a destination where people would come.
Right.
And be able to relax, park, maybe go to multiple places, like you're saying. We know it's charming. We want the world to know it's charming.
Right.
So I think it's really great that you're here, and I hope.
And one of the other things that I was thinking, I mean, I have a lot of different ideas, but I was also thinking there is parking over by, there's a commuter lot that is over by the Pacific Brew House.
I think down around that.
And
area,
I
you're
was
not gonna
thinking you
trouble
could
with
have
parking.
some sort of just a golf cart system. Like I could have golf carts and have it set up to where you have a number you call on the phone and we send someone to pick you up in order to, if parking would be an issue. I'm just trying to think of, different ways that we could address that.
Sure, and I think Steve said it best. That end of St. Louis Street has traditionally not been too highly parked on.
Right, and honestly, since I've been
parked there
there-
before and walked down to Brown Jerry's, so.
Right. And that's,
know.
we go to Brown Jerry's every Saturday when we're working. You know, best barbecue ever, in my opinion, but.
It's pretty darn good.
So, and typically there are, on that side of the street, there are usually just 2 cars parked there.
It's generally very light, so I don't think we're gonna see a huge problem there.
Right. And obviously, yeah, the hours of operation, and the music is gonna be, it's gonna be acoustic music. When you go to a winery, you don't wanna hear a heavy metal band.
Right, you want it to be pretty mellow.
You wanna
but even at
have,
that,
it's
we-
basically gonna be 1 or 2 guitars and a singer.
Sure,
So it'll be low key to where people can still hold a conversation, yet at the same time have a little bit of just some kind of music in the background playing, and and obviously we would need a time to say, okay, and it's going to be a wine house. Typically, wine houses don't stay open that late anyway. It's not like they're staying open till 1 o'clock. And I'm not sure, and I'm open to suggestions as far as how late you guys think we should be open.
hopefully we're gonna have that information here in a minute. So,
Okay.
I'll tell you, I've one research project at a time. So the street is marked on Franklin County GIS as 80 feet. All right, and the distance that Google Earth is coming up with, which is not an exact science, is 77.4 from the extreme edge of the sidewalk to the other extreme edge of the sidewalk. So I would think that that retaining wall is in the city's right-of-way. But, Mr. Roth, that's a,
I mean, we're just completely guessing. We don't
Yeah.
know. Until the property's surveyed, we don't know, obviously.
right.
I did find that ordinance for Little Ireland, and those hours of operation were to be limited to no later than 10 p.m. on weeknights, Sunday through Thursday, and no later than 12 a.m. midnight on weekends, Friday and Saturday.
Saturday, yeah. Okay.
seems perfectly reasonable to me if it would be
Oh,
agreeable with.
Absolutely. That's perfectly fine with me.
Okay. Did that take care of everything, Mike?
Absolutely,
Okay.
thank you.
Ms. Picado?
Thank you. I just have a couple questions. On the ADA, we're not looking to put a handicap parking on one of the parking spots on the street, are we?
That's up to you all. It's not mandated by the code.
Yeah,
That
there's
we would do
currently
so.
one in
I
front of
think
the
there
old-
would be-
in front of the post office.
I was going to say, I think in front of the post office there is.
Yeah, there is.
Yes, there is.
There's one.
There's one in front of the post office.
I think the use of it, assuming, I mean, at some point, there'd be a building permit, correct? For the
Yes.
renovations, remodel.
Well, there currently is one now.
Okay.
But it's just for the building itself.
Prior to commercial occupancy, that would be determined, if a handicap space would be required. I don't know right offhand if that would be a requirement or not. It may be difficult to provide, of course, off the the East St. Louis Street, West St. Louis, sorry. But again, there'd be access through the rear potentially for that accessibility. It's kind of outside the scope of a CUP, frankly. Again, the building code will kind of govern that,
Okay.
whether or not it'll be required.
Okay.
And forgive me if I didn't catch A on the second page where it said it needed to be, a standard is to be verified. Did I miss that? Complete.
Complies with all applicable
Complies with
provisions.
all applicable.
That's just saying, is everything in this title acceptable? Okay, so.
Because it said the standard is to be verified.
Right,
and I
that is a
didn't
big
know.
blanket over everything else.
Okay, all right, if that's what you're using it for, I'm good with that. I think that's all I had.
Mr. Eversmeyer?
What about fencing? Will you be doing
My-
any fencing next to the house?
My idea was that I was going to fence around the entire property. And I guess it depends on, now I know that there's been some issues with people having fences too tall, possibly. I would like to have, kind of a privacy fence on part of it. Part of it would be, possibly the building. It may be back towards the back of the lot to where we have, a fence that meets up to the building. I'm not exactly sure, but I did plan on having fencing around there.
Okay.
And on the front, I wasn't sure, is that something that would be required?
I don't know if it would be required, but it might be recommended with the drop-off between the property
Okay.
and
I was
the
thinking,
sidewalk.
and it may look better anyway.
Yeah.
To have at least some sort of ornamental fencing there, like
E-
a black wrought iron
e-
fence or
exa-
something.
exactly.
Creates a border.
Yeah,
Yes.
something that, to keep people from falling
Well,
off of there.
you don't want to be liable for somebody falling.
Absolutely,
And I mean,
absolutely.
that 30, that's probably a good 30-inch drop off there.
It is, it is.
So you might want to consider something to that.
Okay.
We're going to talk about that too.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Yeah, Raphael.
Which wines will you be serving? Strictly Missouri, or are you going to be going around the world? And Steve,
okay.
is it anywhere
Initially-
compared to my collection?
Initially, my thoughts were to do Missouri wines, strictly Missouri wines, but one of my wife's friends who loves wine said that I need to have some imports. She wants high-end wines. She said, and I'm not a wine drinker. I'll drink beer and that's it. But as far as wine, I don't know anything about wine. My wife knows about wine. Her friends know about wine. But she thinks that we should probably import some higher end wines and at least give people the opportunity to taste some of these wines. Now, some of these wines are extremely expensive, so I've done a little bit of research, and they actually make dispensing machines that you can get for a higher end wine. It holds 4 bottles of wine, keeps them each one at a specific temperature, and you push a button and it serves out a predetermined amount, 3 ounces, 4 ounces, whatever. And you could sell it by the glass as opposed to making someone buy an entire bottle of a $400, $500 bottle of wine or whatever it is, I don't know. So it would give people the chance to maybe, try a glass of wine that they wouldn't normally have the opportunity to try.
Good.
Okay.
You need to have a conversation with us.
And also I don't know if you guys have heard of the Hoffmans and what they're doing in Augusta.
In Augusta? Yep.
They are spending a lot of money in Augusta. They believe that it's going to be the next Napa, or they're going to try and make it the next Napa Valley.
Yep.
And they're spending way more money than what I'm spending, but obviously they've done some marketing research to say, hey, this area, it'll work. And I think it'll work in Pacific. So I'm just, and anytime I have an idea, and this is my brother, he'll tell you, people always say my ideas, they'll laugh at them and say, that's never going to work. I had a guy, and honestly, that's fine. Maybe you're right, maybe you're not. But that honestly drives me to work harder and make something work. And maybe the first idea doesn't work 100% like you had planned, but all you have to do is make some adaptations. You can make any plan work as long as you put your mind to it. You just may have to adapt.
You have
And
to work a
I'll do
little
that, and I'll put in 110%, I guarantee it.
Okay. Now, the only other concern that I have, and I think several of the other commissioners do have, is the location of the Presbyterian Church in reference to this piece of property.
Well, when this first came on the radar, Mr. Roth and I had a conversation about it, and we checked it out, and that's why you don't see anything covered in here, because it didn't need to be. All right, so,
It doesn't need to be?
well, here's why. The code calls for 100-foot distance between, a separation between the church property.
Okay.
From corner to corner is 130 feet.
Okay.
That's my measurement. Ryan measured 140, so.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that this was addressed, that we don't have
Yes.
another situation
Absolutely.
that there would be any concerns there. I think you've covered everything. Any other questions from the commission?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Flannery?
2 questions, because you've answered a few of the other ones already. One, are you planning, I didn't read it within the application, retail sales or just by the drink?
You'll be able to buy bottles of wine.
Do they have to be consumed on property, or can you take them?
I would think
Am I
that-
be able to buy a closed bottle to go home and?
Right,
Okay.
right. I mean, typically you can do that at a winery. You can go there and you can buy it, and most people want to consume it there, but, I mean, there's a possibility you have a glass and say, oh, I really love this. I'd like to bring it home and share it with my family over dinner, and possibly buy a bottle of wine and bring it home. I mean, that's definitely, I would think that's 99% going to happen, I would say.
Okay. And then the other thing that pops up, and this may not be part of the application process, and if not, then let me know. But we talk about the back alley and maybe some employee parking in the rear and all that. As I recall, that alley is currently gravel, It's not hard paved. Is access going to be there? Is that going to be on the city to do that? Is that going to impact this whole process?
Well, I'm going to ask Steve, if that's the alley, that's a designated alleyway, that would be on the city, I would think.
Well, it's a designated alleyway, but the city is not the one that's doing the improvements.
Okay.
So it typically would fall on the
It
developer
would fall on
to
the developer.
improve the street access
Now-
to the development.
If we do that, are we going to make them do the whole block? From corner to corner, or from end to end? Are you going to say from 4th Street to the end of his property? Or are you going to say from 3rd Street to the end of his property? I mean,
I don't think you could force him to improve the whole alley. Mr. Roth, I'll defer to you.
Yeah, the improvement would be at the developer's cost.
okay, but would it be just in front of his property?
We would review that through the site plan. I don't think it would have been an absolute requirement.
Okay.
It kind of depends how the site lays out and how it's designed. But yeah, improving it to his property line, I think would not be, again, wouldn't be an absolute requirement.
Okay, because we've talked about hard surfacing for parking, and we've gotten into some of that with people and their driveways. So I just want to make sure we have all of our i's dotted and our t's crossed. If we have him do a certain portion, other people come back and we say they've got a hard surface something, we're all covered here.
Yeah, just to be very clear, when it comes to parking, the code allows the city to waive 100% of the off-street parking requirement in the downtown area, okay? However, given the way the building sits up and the fact that there's an alley in the rear and, you know, the applicant's use, we felt that we, again, in his staff report, recommend 2 spaces in the rear of the property. Those spaces are accessed by the alley. The alley then and those spaces at minimum would be hard surfaced.
Okay, and then if he would decide that he wanted to be able to park a couple of food trucks back there, that would have to be hard surface too.
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
I just don't want you to have any surprises.
Oh,
down
no,
the
no,
road,
I totally
okay?
understand. And that was my plan, to have a
Okay,
hard surface.
Okay, so, but I was just trying to make sure that we have all
Absolutely,
of that.
I appreciate
That
that.
covered, okay? That being the case, I can let you sit down,
Okay.
and I do not have any public speaker cards.
I have a question, if you don't
Okay.
mind. You had mentioned that maybe a bed, Airbnb or a bed and breakfast, whatever you want to refer to that as. When are you looking for that to be?
What do you mean, when would that start?
Yes, because you said something about the upstairs.
Yes. It would be once the project is completely finished.
Up and going.
And I mean, there's quite a bit of work to be done on the outside.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the house itself is at least, what do you think, 60, we're probably 60 days off from finishing the inside of the house, and we have a lot of stuff on the outside.
Right.
So I mean, it's still pretty far off. But I would not do anything with the upstairs as far as like bed and breakfast stuff until everything was operational.
Okay.
That way there wouldn't be any construction going on. I want to
Okay.
have the project completely done.
So that would have to come back to us.
It would have.
No, that's a
No,
permitted
because
use.
it's a permitted use in the C1
It's a
district.
C1.
Okay, well, we
Right.
have bigger concerns then.
Huh?
Is-
Okay.
I mean, this is going to be up to the fire department because you're going,
Correct.
don't you have to have?
Yeah, there would
Okay.
have to be some review
Make
there.
sure you check with the fire department, you know, on what it's going to entail you to have to do.
Our building department and our inspector and the fire marshal, they team up quite often on the inspections
Well,
now.
again, we don't want any surprises.
No,
too,
he
they say.
won't. Right.
All right,
Thank you.
that's it, thank you.
I think I already gave you the marshal's number today.
Yes. I've got the.
Yep.
Okay, now I'm going to bring up another thing, Mr. Roth, and you can step in on this. This gentleman is going to go to a great deal of expense on his property, and the property that is just due east of his property has a non-conforming fence. They have a wall that has been installed that has just got the building paper over it. They have a fence on the east side of their property that's hanging over into the picture show. And I don't think it's fair for a gentleman to spend the kind of money he's spending and not make that piece of property come into compliance with city code. And this has been setting since when we did the picture show.
Mr. Roth, if I could, I have contacted Gary Watson, our code enforcement officer. He is aware of the situation. This has been months ago.
Yes.
And so I don't know what the present status is in terms of his dealings with the property owners. But I would imagine if it's not in court, it's probably pretty close to.
Well, I would hope so, because this has been going on for quite a long time. And I know we've made people take fences down because they were non-compliant fences. And this one's still there, and it's been there for a good while.
I can follow up with Mr. Watson tomorrow.
I would hope so, because if this gentleman's going to spend that kind of money,
If I may speak.
Sure.
Part of the reason his fence is down is because I ripped it down with my skid steer.
well, but,
There were vines that have been growing through that for
right,
30 years.
right.
So I actually feel like I'm responsible for that, and it doesn't bother me. He's a great guy.
Well, you may be responsible for a part of it, but the fence is a non-compliant fence.
Okay. But I did tell him, I said, I wouldn't worry. I told him this. He's a great guy. He cuts my grass was out of compliance and I couldn't get there. He cut it for me.
Okay.
And just texted me and said, hey, I got the grass cut. Great guy, super great guy. And actually, I love all my neighbors around there. That's one of the reasons I wanted to keep this place, because I live in Eureka and it's nothing like this. The city of Pacific is awesome. I love it. But I told him that I'm gonna be building a fence there anyway. So I told him not to worry about it because I'm gonna be building a fence on that line.
Okay, but he's had issues with previous things, all right?
I understand.
And I just think when somebody's going to spend the kind of money that you're spending,
Right,
we need to make sure that things are up to code.
absolutely.
Okay.
I agree, but I don't wanna be the reason that my neighbor gets in trouble or something. You know?
Okay, that's fine.
You know, he is really honestly a great guy. He's trying to get it fixed up over there,
Okay,
you know.
Can you guys check out the house behind us?
okay.
please? Check out the house behind us. The house is falling apart, please. I gotta go.
House behind him. Who is that?
I have
Don't know
no-
where they from?
I have no
don't know.
idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Anyway, is there any other questions, comments, concerns? If not, that public hearing is now closed. P and Z, or was this posted first off?
Yes, ma'am.
P and Z 2022-4, public hearing for 211 South 3rd Street, conditional use permit. Sam Dean is the applicant. The applicant is proposing to operate an auto cleaning detailing business at the site. The property is currently zoned C1 Downtown Commercial District under Section 400.120 of the City of Pacific's Municipal Code. Such use is listed as requiring a conditional use permit. Sam Dean was the applicant. Could we have the report on this, please?
Certainly. So this request, as stated in the staff report, is the second such request made by Mr. Dean in recent months. The first such request was for CUP approval for the same business to operate at 318 East Union. That CUP was recommended for approval and formally adopted by the Board of Aldermen. Mr. Dean has since sold that property and purchased the property now at 211 South 3rd Street. The subject site is located in the downtown area near the northwest corner of West Orleans and South 3rd Street. It includes an office, a shop space that is contained entirely within a 4,800 square foot climate-controlled building. The property was previously used as a storage display showroom area for a private car collection. If you haven't had a chance to go into this building, it's pretty fancy on the inside, complete with a chandelier in the middle of this showroom floor. It's phenomenal. This building is surrounded completely by C1 downtown commercial. However, the uses vary. There's railroad to the north, residential to the south. Commuter parking lot for the city is to the east, and light industrial to the west. If you look at whether or not it's going to contribute to the community welfare or convenience, it is highly likely that auto detailing was conducted inside that building before, but on a private use basis. To my knowledge, there were no complaints filed with the city regarding this use, ever. So this use, I believe, would be a complementary to adjacent and nearby uses and not have any negative effect on neighboring property values whatsoever. Will it cause injury to the value of neighboring property? Will it create a nuisance? The proposed use will be conducted entirely within that building year-round, so no nuisance is anticipated. The only concern may be dropping off and picking up of cars before and after appointments, as outside parking spaces are very limited. There is an apron approaching the large garage door to the east side of the building, and there is enough room there that cars could be staged on that apron approach. But there really is no allocated parking for this building outside of that. It was never needed in the past. So the standard is to be verified. The comprehensive plan, as far as the existing zoning district provisions, comprehensive plan recommended a mixed-use district to be created in downtown zone. This existing C1 district allows for the proposed use subject to conditional use permit acceptance. Pacific's comprehensive plan lists an objective number 3 under economic development to promote and support existing commercial and industrial businesses, local entrepreneurial, and startups. It continues by referring to economic gardening, where focus on embracing the fundamental ideas that entrepreneurs drive economies. That's emphasized. This model seeks to create jobs by supporting existing companies within our community. The staff finds this project to be in conformance with the plan and existing zoning district provisions. This standard has been met. Will it provide off-street parking and loading areas in accordance with the standards contained in this title? With 4,800 square feet of space inside, there's likely little need for exterior parking, especially in the infancy of this business. However, it's recommended that consideration be given to a requirement for the addition of designated hard surface parking spaces either on the south side or the east side of the building as this business grows. Bulk regulations call for the building and parking not to exceed 80% of the total lot coverage, so there is his limit for how big of a parking area he could someday develop. The subject property is about 15,434 square feet, which provides ample space to be able to establish off-street parking in the future. Staff recommends that the applicant would be allowed to occupy the building and conduct business as is, provided that the street and/or alley is not used for business parking. Parking on the grass would not be allowed. As the need for parking increases with the growth of his business, hard surface parking would be required. Recommendations: this property is located in the middle of downtown mixed-use district with residential, industrial, and commercial uses, all in near proximity to this use. The proposed auto detailing use is not unlike other nearby light industrial uses and would, in our best judgment, complement other uses in the district. The auto detailing use, in our judgment, presents no conflict with surrounding district and offers an opportunity for job growth in our community. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, I have a question for you. Back when my grandpa owned that property, those guys used to park parallel to the sidewalk on the east side of that building. So they're not going to allow any parking on the street there? I mean, you're going to be limited to the number of spaces.
There are presently no signs, so it's not by ordinance that parking wouldn't be allowed there. It certainly could be established.
That would be the only thing. I mean, I would think with this business, there wouldn't be more than maybe 3 or 4 cars that would maybe be parked out there for somebody to pick it up.
Well, you could fit, Sam, how many cars can you fit in there? 8?
Inside the facility?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't put a number on it. It's a vast amount.
It's a large building.
And additionally, you can fit 2 cars parked in the driveway, if you will, and then another side of the driveway on the street and one on the other side of the driveway.
Yeah.
I think-
Along the street, and there's zero proposal to use any of the grass or any other areas of the land for parking. There's
Okay.
just no need for that.
Okay, no, I was just asking, because at one point, and I'm talking years ago now, okay? The guys who used to work at that shop parallel parked on Third Street along the sidewalk. That's why I was asking if there was no parking allowed now. So there could be some parking there,
It could be.
could be,
But I would let Mr. Dean address his business needs.
okay, okay. So that's everything in there. Sam, would you get up and give us your name and address and
Yep, the name is Sam Dean, and my address is 251 North Woods Drive, Pacific,
Okay.
Missouri.
Okay,
And so to touch on your point, along that east side,
Mm-hmm.
there are actually bushes lining the alleyway on my property that would prevent any parking there anyway. But just to put everyone at ease, the maximum amount of cars that I would do facilitate the cleaning in one day would be maybe 4. So if you're having someone maybe drop off the Friday and Saturday appointments on a Friday, the maximum amount that I could see for an entire weekend would be 8. So they would all fit inside
okay. All right.
or in the driveway. But I don't see a vast need for parking at all, actually.
Okay.
Because most of my appointments, almost 90% of them are picked up and dropped off in the same day. So again, yeah, I would not see parking as an issue for this type of business.
Okay. Now, are you strictly going to just do the business out of there?
Correct.
Okay, and
Correct.
I'm just kind of going back to what you had on
Yes.
Union Street. You're not going to do a living quarters?
No, that is
Okay.
the actual reason that I'm actually at this building versus the other building, other than the fact that it was an opportunity that wasn't available when I pursued the previous building, is because the barriers to me being an open business and functional and operational this summer, much less. It's very quicker. I can move in right away and get business going. As Steve mentioned, it is a very, very nice facility. I hope to open it up because it has been a private facility this entire time. So opening up to the public, allowing people to get in there and see the glory that's been in our downtown is part of my mission. But like I said, there's not many issues. There's no construction. I won't have to do any of that. It's all move-in ready.
So it's ready for you to go in and start business?
It's the bee's knees. It's all drywall, temperature controlled, as he said. It's got a chandelier in the center. There is nothing that I have to do to the facility in order
Pipe
to.
organ?
There is.
What?
It's actually an electric organ. So if anyone knows or wants an organ, I have one for sale.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mine too. You know.
Okay. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, other than I do think this project and the other projects here just support a thriving downtown and an emerging economy. So I would think that the board would support that.
Okay, all right.
That's it.
Now, before I let you sit down, do any members of the board? Mr. Bates?
Hi, Sam. How you doing, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you again.
Good.
Is it going to be just you detailing, or are you going to have employees?
Oh, I have a crew. They're contractors, but yes, I hire a lot of local area students. So college students and high school students from PHS.
Okay.
Okay.
So, is there plans on, because you mentioned, look, 4 a day, 8 a day, is there any limiting factor that could keep you from doing a little more than that, or, because we want you to be successful. We want you to have an avenue for growth in your business. We don't want you to do this and then move out again in a year and a half because you don't have enough room.
So I've actually been operating this business. We turned 5 in July, so not a lot of people knew that I started this so long ago, and I adopted the crew approach where I have 2 additional crew members help me, or they facilitate the appointment entirely themselves over a year ago in preparation for this type of move. So the original problem was being able to find the labor, and it is year-round, except for during summer when all of the students are out of school. But I would say the only limiting factor is literally finding help. in the off months of summer, so.
Okay.
Very good.
Anybody else on the board have any questions for Mr. Dean? That being said, I can let you have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion from any of the board members before I close this public hearing? And I don't believe there's anybody out in the audience that would like to speak. I have no speaker cards.
I will say I did receive one phone call today
Oh,
of a
okay.
curious property owner about this use.
Okay.
And after describing it to him, he was completely satisfied and said, go for it.
Okay, all right. That being said, no other questions, comments? The public hearing is now closed. New business, P and Z 2022-3, consideration for 319 West St. Louis Street, conditional use permit. Jason Clark is the applicant.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve and include the hours of operation for the music as we discussed during the public hearing.
Anything else that we need to put in there?
What else was included in theirs? Do you remember? I know the
And Little
hours.
Island's
Yeah,
thing?
because we don't, if we don't know, we don't want to just copy theirs into that.
They said 10 PM during the
Well,
week.
It was,
and midnight
it was,
Friday and
basically it was for
Saturday.
the music, for
Yeah,
them.
we didn't have a lot of other
There
restrictions at
there
all.
wasn't a lot of other restrictions there.
There was something else.
Most of the restrictions are covered under the CUP.
Right.
Noise
Right.
control and all that stuff is all within the CUP.
Right, and within the building code.
Right.
So, Mr. Roth, you said earlier it's 10 PM on weekdays and midnight on Friday, Saturday? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Bass, and I have a second by Mr. Eversmeyer. Can we pull a vote on this, please?
I apologize, I was
That's
writing it all down. Chairman Bruns,
Yes.
Commissioner Flannery,
Yes.
Commissioner Culling,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
Commissioner Bates,
Yes.
Commissioner Madrigal,
Yes,
Commissioner Mercado,
Yes,
Alderman Eversmeyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Graham.
And he is not here tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That motion is approved 8-0, so this will be going before the Board of Aldermen at their next meeting. So you'll be on that agenda for that, and I wish you good luck. It looks great what you've done so far.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question for clarity. The recommendation was for 2 spaces of parking, I believe, and
In the back.
yes. And so it wasn't specifically stated in the motion. Is it the intent for us to have 2 spaces or?
My intent was as proposed.
Yeah.
With the addition of the hours of
Okay,
operation
yes.
for the.
Thank you. And I thought that was the case. I just want to make sure. Okay.
Okay. Okay. P and Z 2022-4, consideration for 211 South Third Street, conditional use permit. Sam Dean was the applicant.
Motion to approve per the staff report.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Eversmeyer, second by Raphael. Can we pull a vote on that, please?
Yes, Chairman. Chairman Bruns,
Yes.
Commissioner Flannery,
Yes.
Commissioner Kelling,
Yes.
Commissioner Miles,
Yes.
Commissioner Bates,
Yes.
Commissioner Madrigal,
yes,
Commissioner Mercado,
yes,
Alderman Eversmeyer.
Yes.
That motion is approved 8-0, and this will be going before the Board of Aldermen at the next meeting as well. And I wish you good luck. Old business. Any old business? Old business. Committee reports, Board of Aldermen, Mr. Eversmeyer?
Not a whole lot to report. I wasn't at the last Board of Aldermen meeting. I apologize. I was on vacation.
Oh, no.
I asked the mayor and she said everything was fine, so.
Oh, so, Mrs. Mayor, would you like to say anything?
I would have to agree, I don't think there was anything that came in front of us,
Okay.
of issue involving planning and zoning and any of the things that you guys had discussed previously. So I think all is good.
Okay, we appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Perfect.
Board of Adjustments.
Yes, we are working on something. We have something that's coming for the next Board of Adjustment. A house, I think.
Okay, just Just a house?
Yeah, it's
It's a 80-foot lot requirement, and this property is 75 feet wide.
Oh, okay. All right. City administrator,
I really have nothing to add. Next meeting, when is that? Do we have we don't have a meeting the second, 2 weeks from today, is that correct?
I believe that there would be, no, that's not planning and zoning. This is going to be the Board of Adjustment meeting is June 1st. So, yeah, we don't have one scheduled right now.
okay. All right,
So at minimum, the next meeting will be canceled, and then potentially even the first meeting in June? Yeah.
okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? I'd like to welcome Steve Flannery to the board. And,
I do have a question. I was
okay,
reading,
sure.
just, it may be premature, or I was reading the minutes in preparation for the meeting. There was reference to, I guess, reviewing the planning and zoning ordinances as a whole. I think the reference was it was 10 years in the past since that has been done, and kind of, it's exciting to hear, but kind of curious, is that a
I think it's.
initiated process or just in the thought process?
Well, it's not really a thought process. It's in the reviewing stage of when Mr. Myers and Mr. Roth have time to go through these to present them to the board. And there will probably be some workshops that will be set up. And at this point in time, they're not set up, but it is definitely something that is on the radar that needs to be addressed. So.
More to
there's-
come.
Yeah, there will be more to come, okay?
Thank you.
Does that answer?
Yeah, it does. I just, trying to get up to speed as quick as possible here.
Oh, you're fine.
So-
You got any questions, all you have to do is holler.
Appreciate
Just a
it.
quick addition. Obviously, it's been discussed for a while. Yes, it's a need. Right now, it's a budget item. We're developing the next year's budget. It's kind of been in and out of the budget because we need consulting assistance,
Okay.
and the budget is tight, but it will be discussed in the context of the upcoming budget.
Thank you, Mr. Roth.
Yes.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion for an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned by Mr. Eversmeyer. Second by Mr. Miles. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned.
Gotta be faster on the draw.